Everybody, welcome to one more round. Today I'm very excited. I had just met Oscar Granados last week. And we started talking. We were at the National Hispanic Construction Alliance event with Better Business Bureau and ROC. Great organization, good time. But he and I talked, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes, and I got to know a little bit about his background as an entrepreneur and some of the things he's overcome. And I mean, you'll see today, he's got a great story, good personality, but I thought it'd be fun to have a conversation, talk a little bit about his background. So thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So let's start from the very beginning. Now, no, last week was a lot of fun. How did you think? What did you think about the event?
Look, I think it's great. I think exposure is everything if you own a business. I think if you're stuck in your burrow and you're not coming out of it and you're expecting for people to know who you are, you're out of your mind, right? So stretching yourself from social media all the way to going to these events. I own a collision center. I got no business being at a general contractor's meeting, but then you find ways to fit in that in the meeting. So I had coffee with what's the guy's name from the Better Business Bureau? Eduardo.
Oh, Eduardo. Yeah.
I had coffee with him right after that. So I'm expanding the network, right? The guy's very well connected. So that was a huge plus for us. I'm meeting with you today. That was a huge plus for us. We're working with the ROC. I had a great conversation with them, and now we're getting our license to do glazing, which is putting tint on commercial properties and residential properties.
Great.
So it was an amazing event.
Yeah, and that's really what it's a part of what it's all about. Like the National Hispanic Construction Alliance, like a lot of people don't know about it because it's just less than 2 years old. But it was my good friend Sergio who started. He's been with NARUP for years and years, which is the Hispanic organization for real estate professionals, and they've been around for a long time, grown really big. They just had an event in San Diego, had 8,000 people there. Oh. We are kind of the sister to that. But, basically he had identified that in the construction world, there wasn't the kind of training to help the Hispanic community, who's doing most of the work, have ownership or to build their trade and to really have a balanced ownership, which they should because they're in there. Totally. It's something like less than 10% or I think 15% of construction companies are owned by Hispanics, whereas over 80% of the work, or I think 78% is what they say. It's done by Hispanics. It's like, and that disparity is gigantic. Well, what is it? Well, sometimes it's training, sometimes it's access to funds, sometimes it's network, right? And this kind of helps with the education and the network and even the funding. Like we've got some pretty good sources. So when he told me about this 2 years ago, I was just getting out of some very bad health issues and stuff. I had a heart transplant.
You had a heart transplant?
Yeah.
No way.
2 years ago. It's crazy.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a whole story. But and he reached out to me, wanted to tell me about what he was doing. We went to Pita Jungle because he lives in California, and he's like, hey, let me tell you about what I'm doing, and I'd like you to be a part of it. And I'm white. what do you mean? But as he started to tell me the vision, I'm like, got it. I love the vision. I love what you're talking about. So I went to the first meeting and became a part of the board. And I love the mission of what they're doing. So I'm glad you had a good experience, especially from kind of an ancillary business that's not directly in it. But that was what really piqued my interest when I was talking to you, because you were telling me that you had the collision centers, right? Scottsdale Collision Center. And you have 2 locations or 3?
Technically 4 buildings.
4 buildings,
but there are 3 locations.
Okay, so the 3 locations. But when you told me your business model and what you did that separates you, like, talk a little bit about that, how you work with construction and fleet specifically.
Well, look, it's vehicles are vehicles, right? And everybody thinks collision, they think when you get in an accident, that's where you need to go. But when you have a construction company, you need a fleet of vehicles to take your people around, blah, 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 whatever. Not only do you need that to carry your people around and your materials, but that also can be branding, right? Like a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, oh, a wrap's very expensive. I go, it's a literally moving billboard that's promoting your business all throughout town. If you're parked outside of a construction site, guess what's going to happen? It's got your name, it's got your logo. What's stopping somebody to drive by and just click it, and then you get business out of that? That's the wrap side of the business, right? But if you do get in a collision, we have a whole fleet division that you bring the fleet in, as soon as it gets approved, it gets worked on, it gets fixed, it gets wrapped, and then we go ahead and deliver it right back to you. So the speed of service on the fleets is something that we prioritize to make sure that these guys have their cars on the road again, because we understand that that's a revenue source that they're creating money with, right? So we want to make sure that we fix it and we get it back on the road as fast as possible.
So when did you identify that? Because like in every business, speed is always something that is going to be a focus. And I could pretty much say that about any type of business, right? Food, any sort of service, any sort of like vehicle, right? You want, faster cars, these types of things. When did you identify that there was a niche to really increase the speed on getting it back to the fleet?
Well, in the U.S., it's all about speed. It's all about convenience of how fast you can get things done. That's why Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, and Discount Tire they have a line out the door, because they have generated some unbelievable SOPs. You go to In-N-Out, there's a double line all the way to the outside of the parking lot, and then you have Wendy's next door that has 3 cars. You will get through that line and get your food the right order, warm, fresh, and all that stuff, before that guy in the third in line gets his cheeseburger. And they might tell him to pull up to the front and wait 5 more minutes because they don't have fries.
Yes.
Right? And In-N-Out is, you're in and out. Right? We're trying to create that same service for everybody at our shop, because collision centers are known to take a really long time. So I pride myself in speed. And then as you grow, you need to intake more revenue. So you're no longer relying just on the regular person getting in an accident. Now you need additional revenue sources to fulfill your lot, to fulfill your revenue. So I joined a marketing group. There's a handful of fleets in there, and they're like, hey, what do you do for fleets? I'm like, I don't know, fix them. I didn't know anything about fleets. I didn't realize there's a whole entire entity about fleet management and how big of an inconvenience that is for fleets. So through education, it's understanding what the consumer needed. And that's what we did. It's like, what does it mean to have a truck down? How long is it usually a truck down? Do people pick your trucks up from your lot? Because normally you have a big enough lot where if they get in an accident, they just tow it to their lot. And then they figure it out. So now instead of towing it to their lot, they'll tow it to me. Or if they tow it to the lot, I'll come pick up the truck for them. So I'm not going to take a service tech out of commission to come drop off a car to my shop. I will go pick up the car for you. So I will go pick up the car for you. I will deliver the car back to you, and it's all within the service, right? As long as you send me more work and you're a fleet customer of mine, I have no problem doing the extra service. And then we signed up Hobica air conditioner and cooling, and they love the service. They're like, man, you pick up the cars, you drop them off.
We bought our air conditioning from them.
Did you really?
Yep.
So I was actually in the marketing group with Andy Hobica, which is the son, and they love what we did for them. And they're like, dude, if you can do this for us, we'll send you all our fleets. And now trucks just show up to our shop. We'll get like Chapman Chevy will show up with 5 trucks and be like, they told us to drop these off. And we're like, okay. And then we'll just wrap them and then we'll go deliver them. Or if it's been an accident, we fix it and we'll go deliver. And they love the fact that we don't drag our feet with the repairs, and then we're able to pick them up and drop them off. So once I fulfill that, it's plug and play with everybody else. Show them what we can do for them, show them the value. Just give me a shot, let me do one car, and then once we win with that one, we usually get them all.
I love it. And one of the things that we had talked about last week was obviously this business. How long have you been doing this business specifically?
I'm going on 8 years now.
8 years. So like you start out in any business, and then you start to learn. You start to go into rooms, and you hear, oh, there's a need, there's something. You write it down. How do I solve that problem? That kind of thing. But this wasn't your first business venture.
No.
You've been in quite a few. So tell me, like, where are you from?
I'm from Chihuahua, Mexico. That's where I was born.
Born in Mexico.
I came here when I was 13 years old. I went to Wilson Elementary, and then I ended up in Camelback High School, graduated from Camelback, go Spartans, and then I did a little bit of college. And, I didn't realize that I wasn't legal till I kind of graduated high school. And then
Really?
I'm like, I'm going to go to, because you're like, you don't know. You're like in the crowd. You don't really need an ID. You don't really need a driver's license.
Sense.
And you don't really get affected by much. And then all of a sudden, 16, 17 comes around and you're like, I want to get a car. Well, you really can't. Oh, I got to drive. Well, you really can't. I got to get this. And all of a sudden you start realizing that. So when I graduated high school, I'm like, I want to go to college and pursue business. Well, ASU doesn't take you unless you have a social. So you can't go to a university unless you have a social security number. So I went to community college. The crazy thing about community college is that you will pay out-of-state tuition if you're a non-resident. And if you're illegal, they consider you a non-resident. So I'm paying ASU prices for a reading class and all these prerequisites at the community college, and it got to a point where I was like, there's no way I'm going to get anywhere like this. I'm going to pay these guys a ton of money for an associate's degree. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And at the time I was working at a mortgage company as a appointment setter. And I just did good at sales. So from there I became a loan officer, and then my career took off from there.
Awesome. So how did you navigate like getting a license and all of those types of things? No?
There's no way to get it. There's no roadmap. You either got to get married to somebody and become a citizen. There's absolutely no path to citizenship whatsoever. So when we came in, we submitted through my aunt, which was a citizen or is a citizen, and there's no timeline. It takes a really long time for that to take in effect. So every administration, there's changes, right? Mm-hmm. So there's paperwork changes, there's qualification changes, everything changes. So from 13 to 21, I didn't even get an appointment to get interviewed. So the United States or the Immigration Service, when you turn 21, you are now an adult. So I was entering. I applied as a minor, mm-hmm. and as a minor, you can be sponsored by another citizen.
Mm-hmm. And your aunt was a sponsor.
Aunt was a sponsor, but from 13 to 21, so you're talking about 8 years.
Yeah.
Nothing happened, because they were like 20 years behind mm-hmm. on paperwork. Think about how crazy that sounds.
That's insane.
They're 20 years behind. So when I turned 21, we get a nice little letter, and it's a denial letter saying that you are now an adult and you are no longer qualified for what you've been applying for the last 8 years. And you're talking about every administration change, mm-hmm. you have to resubmit different paperwork because every administration changes the law. Mm-hmm. And as the law changes, you're going to continue to change, or to pursue that, you got to continue. So when people go, I don't know why they don't do it the right way. There is no right way to do it. It's so impossible. And for me, my moral compass was like, don't get married. Like, you're not going to get married just to get mm-hmm. papers. I was like, that's not the right way to do it. And then, so I always refused to do that. And then one day I just figure out how to do it. You become really resourceful at this point.
Sure.
Because you either give up mm-hmm. or you find a way to continue to thrive. And there's always a way. And this mm-hmm. is the land of opportunity. I go, I'm going to find a way. So one day I go, well, what happens if I start a company? Do I need a social security number to start a company? Mm. What do you need?
An ITIN.
A tax ID number.
Yeah.
So I've been filing taxes since I started working. Mm-hmm. And the IRS will go, you want to file taxes? Here's a tax ID number. Yep. So what I did is I go, well, how do I open up an LLC? So I got the LLC paperwork and I read through it as best of my ability, because mm-hmm. we didn't have ChatGPT back then. Mm-hmm. And then I go, Social Security? I don't have one of those, but I have one of these.
Yeah.
So I go, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? So I put all my information and I put the tax ID number and I sent that in. And then a couple of weeks later, the LLC came in. Wow. And at that point, I figure out a way for me to navigate through this world legally. Because at that point, you can get corporate housing, you can get corporate everything.
Yeah.
So I figure out a way to get apartments and offices and all through this LLC, bank accounts and the et cetera. So I was illegal, but operating legally. And that's how I opened a ton of my businesses.
Wow. That's crazy to me. You know, the path to citizenship, and I've had discussions with, different folks about it, and like, it's not even a political thing. Like, it's just like, okay.
It's not. It's a humane thing. It's
got to be a path to it, right? Because I know people that are in the same situation. In fact, I was doing an estate plan for a couple, maybe 3 weeks ago, or whatever, telling me their story, very similar. And like, yeah, there's no path. There's no way for us to do it. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. How would you fix it? If you could fix it, what would be that path? Because there's obviously a position in an argument that there should be a legal way to do it, right? Or that some came over illegally. But if you're paying taxes and you're doing all these things and you're doing all the right things, there should be a path to citizenship. What would you say would be a solution?
Let me ask you a question. So what you do, does it require a license?
It does, yeah.
Okay, so and you need some training and you need a license and you need background checks and you need to make sure that you're not a scammer, right? And
Correct.
You're not scamming people out of their finances. It's a big deal, right?
Huge deal, yeah.
So you have to be a good standing person in order to qualify for the license, and you got to be educated in order to, and you got to have essentially a good track record to maintain that.
Yes.
Well, what's stopping you from doing that to one of us? How long does it take you to get, a passport? Same thing. You get fingerprinted, you get background check, you get reference, you get all this stuff that gets done. Why isn't that a process that gets done today? Why does it take 20 years to do that, to vet that person out?
Yeah. I don't know. Like it doesn't make sense.
So what would I do? I look, I don't want criminals here either.
Yeah.
You know, I live here.
Right. Yeah.
I am your neighbor.
Yeah. You're married. You've got kids.
I'm married. I
got
cars.
kids, right?
I am part of society, and I want society to be just as good as I want to be. You know what I'm saying? I want to walk around the park with my kids without anything happening. I want everybody driving to have a driver's license and insurance. I want everything that you want.
Right.
How do we make it normal for us to be able to get that so we can become part of society? And there's not this weird division about, well, you're brown or you're illegal and you're less of a human. We're not, man. No. We're pretty cool people, I think. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And there is some bad people, but
there's bad people everywhere. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. You can't just be like, well, we're this and we're better. No, man, we're all the same. If you research and interview enough Mexicans, there's going to be a bunch of those that are not good people. But the majority are going to be people, just like every other race and every other people. But how do you vet these people out? What do you need to know for the country to be comfortable to give you a path to at least residency, not even citizenship? Like, we just want a legal status, right? So why don't you put people on a leash and you said, hey, we're going to watch you for the next 5 years. I think 5 years is a long time to see if that person's a good person, to see if they have a good record, good driving record. Is he a drunk? Is he a drug addict? Is he a hardworking guy? Is he not? You can find out a lot about a person in 5 years. And then after 5 years, do a test. Whatever test you need us to do. What do we need to know about the country and the laws and the lingo and the language and whatever that may be? I guarantee you the people will fulfill that. Because everybody would rather do that than to be driving around illegal. You think parents want to be leaving their house scared that they don't know if they're going to come home to their kids?
No.
Like, I can't even think about it. I told my parents, I took my parents out. I was like, I don't know how you guys did it. I go, how did you leave your country of origin? You literally just locked the door of your house and you never came back. And you went to a country that you don't know the lingo, you don't know the society, you don't know any of it. You just said, I'm going to go figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think that should have some merit into who that person is, especially if they're working and they have a family. Like, why do you see that person as a criminal, right? Well, they crossed the border is an offense. I get it. If you're smuggling people and drugs, like, I understand that, but isn't it just a misdemeanor if you go across the border? Not encouraging everybody to do that, but what would you do if this place went to crap?
If this place went to crap,
if the U.S. went to crap, would you
know,
migrate somewhere out? Would you want to take your family somewhere else?
If it got bad enough, probably, yeah. I mean,
so if my place got bad enough and we're seeking a better opportunity, and there's no path for me to do illegally, what should I do? Just
right. I mean, if you're
put my family through hardship.
You're a husband and a father, and your job is to provide, and where you're at is unfixable and terrible, and it's not good for your family. You have to make a decision to do something better. Like,
correct.
You have to.
Now, if there was a better way of doing it legally, I guarantee you, and I can speak for volumes on this, more people would do it the right way.
Oh, I agree with that.
Nobody wants to go to work
yeah.
and get lower wages than the other person.
Right.
Nobody wants to go to work and get discriminated against or being held hostage because you're illegal. Or we're not going to pay you for this because of this, or we'll call this person, like, constantly being threatened, and nobody wants to live like that. And so if there's a path, wouldn't you fix a lot of issues if that happens?
Yeah.
I don't think it's very difficult. Same thing with guns. I love guns. I carry guns. I have guns. I think you should have a gun license, like you do a driver's license for your car. You're telling me that you're more concerned about somebody getting in a vehicle than somebody having a pistol. But the same thing should work, right? You go in there, you do a test. You get a visual test, you get a mental test to make sure you're not some psychotic person buying 1 million guns. You can have 1 million guns just like you can have 1 million cars.
Right.
Right? Maybe get some insurance for your gun, just in case something happens, right? Maybe make sure that you understand who has the guns. But you can have guns. I'm all for guns. But there's some people that shouldn't have guns. Just like I also think there's some people that you shouldn't give papers to.
Right.
But if you do the right background checks, and I mean, that exists today, right? You can do fingerprints and you can do an extensive background check. If I go apply for a government job today, right, what's going to happen? They're going to do a background check, they're going to do a fingerprint, they're going to do all these tests, even just to get your passport. You can do that to anybody that's coming into the country.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I don't know, I hope this in our lifetime, both problems actually are solved that we're talking about here.
I agree with you.
Because I'm a huge gun proponent, but I'm also a huge gun proponent of making sure that people that are mentally stable have guns, right?
Dude, people are getting shot on the road.
Right. And
over a lane.
Yeah.
Over a parking spot.
Yeah, and I don't think it's too much to ask for just some basics, right, to get it. But I think anybody should have access, or at least just like a driver's license. If I don't pass a driver's license test, then legally I shouldn't be able to drive, right? Like if I don't have a license, I shouldn't be able to drive.
Or if you're a bad driver.
If I'm a bad driver, exactly.
You shouldn't have a gun if you have a couple issues with guns.
The perpetuity, well, not perpetuity, but almost that we used to have on our driver's license, where you didn't have to do it again for 50 years. Thank goodness they're changing that, because yeah, I mean I think every 5 years you should have to go back and just have some sort of evaluation.
Understand the rules of the road.
Right.
Look, I drive. My wife, she goes, I don't want to go up north with you because you get so stressed out about slow drivers driving on the fast lane, and like there's like 3 semis on the right lane and the whole entire traffic is on the left. I'm like, it's just people forget the rules of the road. I go, if people just follow the rules of the road, everything would be a lot simpler, right? They just split the lanes into 3, and now there's traffic on all 3 lanes.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that this person doesn't know that when you're traveling on a highway, if you're going slower than traffic, you go on the right lane. But now this guy's on the left lane, he's on the passing lane. I'm passing on the slow lane and the same thing goes with guns. If you don't know the laws of the how to use a gun,
right,
the mechanics of a gun, the importance of a gun and how dangerous it is, you shouldn't have one. Same thing with driving. If you don't understand the rules of the road and how to operate a vehicle, you shouldn't drive one.
Right.
Because you can kill somebody in a vehicle, just as much as you can kill somebody with a gun.
Well, that's I think the stat is something like 50,000 people a year or a month or some astronomical number like die in car accidents.
There's 90,000 car accidents reported in Maricopa County every year. 90,000 that are reported in Maricopa County every year.
Yeah, okay.
That's how many accidents we're having every year. And the fatalities of those accidents are going up every single year. Why? Because our highway speed is 65 times 2.
Yeah, no, I mean most people drive 85. Like that's just
85, 90 standard,
sure.
right? And cars are starting to become more comfortable where you don't feel like you're going 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, you absolutely do not. And that's the thing is like with the driving and the vehicles today, even though you don't feel it, you're still going at that speed.
You're going at a tremendous rate of speed.
You know, the deaths. But my point I was going there is the fatalities are gigantic. They're actually way, way larger than the guns. Yet, again, you got to have a license. You should have a license for both, right? And yeah, these are problems I wish, maybe, who knows, maybe someday, you know, I'll get more involved. But I think that people, if they just sat down and they had conversations without getting contentious and talked through actual solutions, there could be a path for these different things to happen. And I think path to citizenship is a big one.
Problem is there's no money in solutions.
You know, there can be, though. There can be.
But look, if you keep, like, for example, I became a dreamer, right? And I love Obama for passing that law and giving us some type of hope.
Yeah.
But he gave me golden shackles. Right? He made me a dreamer, and now I can't leave the country. Now I can't do this. Now I got to renew every 2 years. For example, my brother had a job at Quicken Loans.
The DAPA or DACA?
DACA, yeah.
DACA, yeah.
So it's the DREAM Act, right?
Yeah.
It's an acronym. I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but they put us in DACA for people that have been here forever. So and that's what should happen to everybody else. I needed to submit all this paperwork. I've been here since I was 13. I went to school. I don't have any major crimes. I have petty crimes, right? And most of them was for driving under suspended license or no license at all, right? Those were extensive of my crimes. And they were able to prove that no DUIs, no fraud, no this, no that. Here you go. You qualify. Why can't they do that to everybody else? And then the process only took about 6 months. It wasn't a 20-year. So you can do that to everybody else. But with him, once you were in DACA, you got to renew every 2 years, but there's no end goal. you're either eventually going to get married or you got to continue to do this.
Well, you did get married, right?
I got married.
Okay.
And it still took me, I just became a citizen last year.
Oh, okay.
I've been married for 9 years.
Wow. Got married and took 8 years then. Jeez.
So you got to become a resident first.
Uh-huh.
And then you got to be on probation as a resident for 3 years. And then you got to take your citizenship test.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is I got lucky that it happened last year. Because if it would have happened this year, I could have been one of the guys that got picked off on their appointment.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine how crazy that would be that you've been doing that? You were trying to get this done for 30 years. And then all of a sudden you get picked off at your immigration appointment, your hearing, just because. That's insane.
Yeah.
But look, every 2 years you have to pay $400 or $600 to renew your DACA paperwork, which is even crazier than your driver's license. There's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of dreamers out there that are renewing this every 2 years.
And that's where I was going with, you said there's no money. There can be money in it.
Totally.
Right? And it would almost be like a paid license to that path over time. But that should also end at some point, right? You shouldn't continue to have to pay
It should be, look,
over.
there should be penalties. I agree. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't, there wasn't.
But then it's done.
But then there's a light at the end. You have hopes and you have a goal and it starts and it ends, right? And there's a process and you got to respect the process. And once you get, but with the DREAM Act, there's none, right? And there's some of us that were in a DREAM Act and that got threatened to be taken away. My brother got a job at Quicken Loans and he moved up the ranks. And he was pretty high up. He was making pretty good money. And then DACA, you have to renew 6 months before it expires because it might take up to 6 months for them to process your paperwork, which is crazy because you're already in the system. You're just sending a renewal application, and they should be able to renew you as long as you don't have any criminal records within those 2 years. It took them 8 months to process his paperwork. So when his expiration date came, Quicken Loan said, "You're technically illegal." And they fired him because they didn't want to hold on to the liability. He had invested over 2 years in that company, climbing up the ladder, working his butt off to get to, close to it, being a director, and then they let him go because he became illegal. Can you imagine that? You work so hard to get the status, you send your paperwork in 6 months in advance, and they don't process it on time. They don't give you a letter saying, "Hey, he'll give this to your employer that we received your information and it's taken a look." Nothing. They had to fire him, and then 2 months later, when he got it, he tried to reapply, and they go, "You got to start at the bottom again." Because technically you're new, and that's happening to a lot of dreamers out there. Luckily, a lot of us are business owners, which if there's a lapse, what am I gonna do? Fire myself?
Wow.
But it's tough.
It's tough. It's a big problem. But I am glad that there are people like you out there that find ways to number one, keep positive, but also find solutions, right? Because now you're married. How many kids you got?
I got 3 of my own and Justin.
Okay, so you got 4, and you're thriving in America, and it's been a weird path, but you got there, which is cool. So what was the first business you started? How did you get into that?
I worked at a mortgage company. So at 15, I got a job at a mortgage company, and I didn't even know what a mortgage was. I didn't know what interest rates were. I graduated high school 2002. I got the job right after that. So from 2002 till about 2004, I was working in a call center. I was very successful in the call center, learned a lot about mortgages. And then one of the owners goes, "Why don't you just become a loan officer? You're always translating." So because I was always translated, I learned the whole entire process of a loan from start to finish. The loan officer just had to sit there in case I had a question, but I filled out the whole entire point. I filled out everything. I literally asked all the questions about credit, about income, about everything that we needed. And the guys go, "Dude, I love you being an interpreter because you do everything. I don't have to do anything." Because I learned all of it. So the owner, I ended up becoming really good friends, and he goes, "Do you want to be a loan officer?" I was like, "Yeah." I go, "You guys drive amazing cars and wear suits every day. I'm over here in the call center, getting paid minimum wage. Like, I'm in." So then I became a loan officer at 18. So at 18, I became a loan officer. Did unbelievable what I thought it was. They actually took advantage of me because I was 18 years old. So my RIP wasn't what it needed to be. Yeah. But for 18 years old, I was making more money than I've ever made. Fast forward 2 years, the company got sued by the FCC. $777,000. Why? For calling people on a do not call list.
Oh, jeez.
And then I'm like, what am I going to do? So I get with another loan officer there and I go, do you want to start a branch? And he goes, no, I don't want to manage these people. It's crazy. I go, I'll manage the people. I go, you go get a license and we'll start a branch. And then within 6 months, we started our own brokerage. And then from from about 19 to 23, we ran a brokerage. And it was an amazing time, right? Subprime loans, and you were doing all kinds of, I mean, we were closing over 50 loans a month. And we were cranking. I was making a lot of money, and life was great. And then 2008 came about, and I didn't know anything about finances. I just thought that the money was never going to stop coming. And then from one day to the next, you're calling banks. You're like I've never experienced anything like it. Do you remember those times?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Were you in the finance?
No, not at that point in time. And at that point in time, I was the field marketing director for Pure Fitness. And no, actually, I just left that. I just started my company. I started my company in 2008, so a digital agency. So that's when I went out on my own, because I always had something in addition, but I left Pure Fitness in 2006, actually, and then I was working with Gannett from 2006, 2008. 2008, I went out on my own fully, started my agency. Yes, so, but I was lucky because I started in the worst time. So it can only go up.
Yep.
Right?
It was a rough time.
I wasn't here and down. I was just like, all right, well, this sucks, but I didn't know any different. So I was very fortunate to start when I did.
I lost everything. I mean, at 24, you lose everything. It's not the end of the world. But
Right.
I had thought I climbed. I thought I was on top of the world. So you get the world taken from underneath you. It's a long way down.
Yeah.
Back at my parents' house, car's getting repoed, no money in the account, gained a ton of weight. My mom's like, man, you got to do something. Like you're getting. So she's like, school or work? I goes, I'll go to school. Went to Gateway Community College, took a semester of graphic design, and I was like, school's a racket. I go, this guy just taught me how to get a duck to go up a mountain and down a mountain in 6 months, and I paid him a lot of money. I go, what? You could have taught me that in a week, bro. Like, why did it take 6 months? So then I left school, went and got a job, applied at Toyota, went through 3 rounds of interviews. They were going to hire me to be a director who managed their whole floor. I didn't qualify for it because I didn't have a driver's license. So I was very depressed. I was driving home and I get a call from this marketing company. Hey man, we looked at your resume. We loved it. We need you to come in for an interview. Unbeknownst to me, it's a door-to-door company, and that's the pitch that we use to get people through the door. So I went for an interview. They drove me into a neighborhood, and I thought we were going to go to another office. And we packaged everything really, really good, right? So we fluffed everything, right? We're a marketing agency. We do guerrilla marketing. We're walking, talking billboards, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, the concept works unbelievably. So I went and worked for this company, which the owners of that company are now my business partners. And they were doing lead generation, door-to-door and business-to-business. And at that point, I was like, I could do this. And I was like, I don't know where I'm going to get a job where I can make as much money as I can here. So we were literally walking door-to-door, looking for people that had broken or cracked windshields and signing them up for a windshield replacement. So in Arizona and about 9 other states, there's a law, and you can pay for your insurance, but you get windshield coverage, that if you get a crack, it gets replaced and it doesn't cost you anything. So instead of investing on billboards and TV and radio and all this stuff, why don't you hire a bunch of people to go out and harvest for you, and you pay them commission? So you have zero overhead.
So windshields on cars, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that I'm familiar with. At first, I thought you were talking about windshields on or windows on a house. I'm like,
no, on cars.
Windshields on cars, yeah, okay.
And you know, the average household has 2.5 cars. So there's cars everywhere.
Yeah,
and if we're all driving, guess what happens here?
Yeah.
They crack all the time. You get a windshield replaced,
sure.
a month later you got another crack. So, but it's an inconvenience, right? It's something so dumb. You might have a crack on it and you're like, I'll deal with it later. But how convenient it is that I come to your house, I make a good impression, I give you all the information that you need, I can sign you up on the spot, I call your insurance company, they verify that I'm legit, and then we get you a windshield in. So we would get paid $50 a windshield that we sign up. So I was signing up about 4 a day. So I was making about $200 a day.
Pretty good.
Not bad, right?
Yeah.
So essentially it was a pyramid scheme. So they pitched you, hey, look, if you learn how to grow and then you're able to train a handful of guys, we'll give you a branch and then you can own the branch, and then you pay essentially a franchise fee to the company, but you own the branch. So I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
2 years later, I moved from here to Florida. Still legal, by the way. So we drove from here to Florida. I drove through El Paso.
Oh, because you couldn't fly.
Immigration stopped us. And luckily, I was with one of my friends, was a white guy, and he talked way too fucking much. So as soon as we got to the immigration point, he wouldn't shut the fuck up. So the guy's like, all right, you guys can go. And I was like, whew. So in Florida, I built a team. Got 5 guys underneath me that were like pretty similar to me. They can go out and sell. They can build people. They can train. They can recruit. And then we opened up an office in Kentucky. So I took 5 guys with $500 in my pocket. We lived in hotels for 6 months till we made enough money to get a place to live. And then from there, I built it. I built probably one of the biggest branches that the company had. So I built 9 locations throughout the country. We were doing probably, my crew alone was probably doing 1,000 windshields a week.
Wow.
Windshield replacements a week.
Yeah.
And then at that time, they started introducing more clients because they saw what we did. So we were in all the Costco's, we were in all the Home Depots, we were in Best Buys, we were in Targets, just doing customer acquisition. So when you walk into Home Depot and somebody goes, hey, have you heard what we're doing for homeowners today? And they're wearing a Home Depot shirt, those guys worked for me.
Okay.
And we did lead generations for Home Depot. We got so good at doing that because I grew up with putting guys on the road, outside in the elements, range, like it didn't matter if it was snowing, we're out there knocking on your door. Like we had to get the job done. So imagine taking those guys and putting them inside of a Home Depot. Do you put beasts inside of a Home Depot? They're generating leads like it's going out of style. Now they're in controlled environment, they're comfortable, they're wearing a Home Depot shirt, their credibility goes through the roof, and these guys are good sales reps. Well, we were doing like 600 leads for Home Depot a week.
Wow.
Cabinet facing, windows, gutters, shutters, you name it, we were doing it. And then Home Depot let us go because they couldn't fulfill the appointments that we had. That's how busy we got. Fast forward a couple of years, I ended up in Connecticut, had branches all throughout the U.S., and then I just got burned out. I burned out. I had met a guy in Connecticut that was doing a lighting business, LEDs, and for some reason I got really attracted to it. I did a couple of jobs in Connecticut on my own, under my own belt, to see if it would work. So I would go pitch lights to business owners to retrofit the whole entire business. So you have fluorescent lights here. I would come in, I would be like, hey, not only can I make this place aesthetically better because the lights are better, but I can save you about 70 to 80% of your lighting bill.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Yeah, so if I take all these lights out, if I put LEDs, they're gonna save you about 80% of the energy. And people were like, pfft, and they're gonna last you 10 years. Oh, by the way, there's an incentive through SRP or APS, and they're gonna pay for a huge portion of that. So I would come in, I would do an audit, you would agree, I would submit the paperwork to APS or SRP, they would give us a refund, you pay the difference, and then we'd come install the lights. And I did that. So when I moved back from Connecticut, that's what I did here. I got $100,000 worth of jobs with no company name, with no business cards, with no website, with no nothing, just simply walking in and building relationships with people. And I showed that to my business partner. I go, this works. And they're like, what is this? I was like, it's about $100,000 worth of deposits. And they're like, Oscar, what the? I was like, we got to find some lights and we got to start installing these lights.
Yeah.
So then I started buying, I find a manufacturer, we started buying them. I started installing them, so I'd take an electrician with me so I wouldn't electrocute myself. But I ended up training the electrician on how to do LEDs.
Wow.
Because it was a whole new, a whole new environment. And then we built that thing up to 9 states. We find a manufacturing plant in China. We white labeled the product. We shipped them. We put our name on it. We sold them. We installed them. We were crushing it. We got in, like I said, in 9 states. We're selling to the government. It got so big that I ended up pitching NYCHA, which is New York City Housing Authority. And we were pitching them on subway, all the lights in the subways, all the Section 8 buildings, literally all the lights almost in New York City. And the architect for the city was very impressed, and he gave me a huge piece of advice. He goes, clearly you've never done business in New York. Your prices are extremely low. I'm like, I marked them up 40% just to do business in New York. He goes, you need to mark that up about 400%. He goes, everything in New York is union workers, union everything. He goes, where you're charging me $100 for that light? He goes, we charge $1,500 bucks. So then that happened, and then we continue. We ended up selling lights to Morocco. We're about to start selling wholesale, which I thought this business was going to be my guinea pig, and it's going to be my golden goose egg, and that didn't happen. The bigger retailers got in the game. And they took my inventory that was worth $1 million down to less than $100,000. Then at that point we rekindled and we said, what do we want to do? Do we want to continue and revive this, or we want to, and then we decided to just move on. And we shut that down. I try to go get a job somewhere, and I realized that I'm broken now. I can't work for anybody else.
Yeah.
And then they said, what are you going to do? I said, look, I've been telling my dad my whole entire life that I'm going to open up a body shop because he's a body man.
Uh-huh.
And then 8 years ago, I found the body shop. I walked in, I met the owner. I said, hey, I'll pay you half up front. I'll make payments on the other half. And he said, yeah. And I talked to my business partners to see if they wanted to go in there. They're like, whatever you want to do, we're in. So we bought the body shop 7 years ago. I didn't know shit from Cheyenne when it comes to the body shop world. And here we are today.
Love it. Love it. So yeah, you're definitely a dreamer. So what was it that gave you the audacity to think you could do anything?
I did it. When I got a job, and I worked hard and I was passing everybody. I go, I can fucking do anything.
Yeah.
Then I became a loan officer, and I was running circles on these 30, 40-year-old guys that would just show up and do enough to keep their job. I was always doing more, and I realized that if you do more, you get more, and I wasn't afraid of it. I was never afraid of work, right? I was never afraid of work, and my attitude continuously started getting adjusted, and I started getting more educated, and I'm like, I can become very dangerous in a good way, and I can really grow. And the more I did, and I was like, well, did you die? No, okay, keep it going. And then every time that I did more, I got more and more confidence of the things that I could do. And I just knew that as long as I didn't give up and I did a good job, the results will eventually happen. And that's been the story of my whole life. It's just grind through it, and good things will come out of it.
Yeah. No, I love that. Before the podcast started, you and I were talking a little bit about challenges and dealing with challenges and stuff. And I'd mentioned there's a handful of people in my life that I'm pretty close to that own different businesses at different success levels, some very, very successful. But they're dealing with some unique challenges, each in and of themselves. But I just tell them, listen, you when it comes to challenges, you got to sit there and say, okay, this is going to suck. It's not going to feel good. So get that out of your mind.
Totally.
But go through it, look for solutions, and it won't last forever. Winter never lasts forever. But you had mentioned some unique challenges you're facing right now in the collision world. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but like, what's your mindset on?
Look, everybody knows this. Insurance companies doesn't have your best interest at heart. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm dealing with my hardship with my own insurance company right now, that they're dragging a claim for over 12 weeks already, and they're not paying out on it. And if any other business, luckily my partners are well funded, we would have gone out of business because they're not covering. So when it comes to your vehicles, same thing happens. They like to, assign contracts with certain shops, and they have agreements, and they only pay a certain amount. So what happens if somebody doesn't pay the full amount? What happens to the new truck houses that they pay per piece? They get billed like crap. Right now you got this inspector that's going around, that's going, hey, this house could potentially fall apart. There's a gas leak here. Well, the same thing happens to your car. I've been in an independent shop for 7 years because I want to hold the insurance company accountable to pay what the car needs.
Yeah.
That's it. Just to hold them accountable for what they're responsible for, and not just say, okay, feed me more work, and then I'll save you a lot of money. I'm not in the business of saving the insurance company money. I'm in the business of fixing your car the right way. And they don't like being held accountable. That's just what it is. So sometimes they purposely delay jobs. Sometimes they take 3 to 4 weeks to come look at a car. They badmouth the company. They steer the customer to another shop. It's a lot of challenges that always arise, but just like challenges in life, they're either going to break you or they're going to make you better. So it's always finding a way to look at it and look at the problem and go, how do I make this problem not only go away, or how do I get stronger from overcoming this problem? So is it challenging? Yes. Is it a headache? Yes. Is it a pain every time I show up and I have to deal with it? Yes. But it's understanding how to deal with it and how to overcome it, and not just let it consume your whole entire life. Because if perception equals reality, right? If you're like, oh, this is brutal and blah, 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 and then you're going to become just negative Nancy, and then that's going to end you. Or you can go, okay, you can see it as a challenge, and you go, how do we overcome that? Or how do we work through this? Or how do we manage, maybe we need to educate the customer a little bit more. Maybe I need to get the customer on my side so I can walk them through the process. That way, if they're giving us any type of hardship, then you can help me call the insurance company, because we know what the end goal is going to be. Right. Which is getting your car done and holding them accountable to do what they're supposed to be doing. So that's what we're doing a lot, is educating the customer, getting them to sign the right documentation. So whether it's a power of attorney, so we can have better access to communicating with the insurance company, getting facts of loss a little better, just getting more information to overcome that, and then you can move the needle. And it's gotten to a point where like all my phone calls are recorded. So now I have accountability from every angle.
Which is nice.
It is nice because one of my reps got cursed out by the insurance company the other day. And not only is that highly unprofessional, but that's just, you shouldn't be doing that when we're asking questions about a customer's claim.
Yeah.
So then I send that to every manager at the insurance company and I go, look, this is where we're at with this and this is what we're dealing with. I go, two things are gonna happen. Either we gotta fix this, like we gotta communicate and fix this, or the next stop is gonna be the Attorney General and the Department of Insurance. I go, you can deal with me and get this fixed, or you can deal with them and get this fixed.
I like it because it's a low leverage point. Now you have documented, right?
I have hundreds of phone calls. I don't just have one phone call.
Which is kind of unfortunate, but you got, that's protecting
it's
yourself,
crazy
right?
because it's like, you're blackmailing them essentially, right? You're like, hey guys, this is where you guys are at. But like, look, man, I'm not in the business to fight the insurance company. I'm in the business of fixing cars.
Yeah.
It just gets to a point where like the last 6 months of my life has been trying to figure out how I can get paid and how I can get the insurance companies to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And another thing that we're realizing is that a lot of people don't really care.
Right.
Because we live in a fast-paced world, and most people care about convenience and they care about quality.
Yeah, that's a great point. No matter what, as a business owner, whatever product or service you provide, the customer really doesn't care how you get them the result. They just want the result. They don't care if you're going through a bad time, whether business or personal and all that stuff. Like, you always got to keep that in mind. It's like, what can you do for me today? That's what the customer's thinking. And although many times you do have good relationships with the customers, like, you always got to remember that what you did for somebody yesterday doesn't really mean anything for what you are going to do for them today or in the future. So you have to deliver all the time.
Yeah, and when you're creating hardship for the customer, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it's the insurance company's fault or if it's your fault.
Right.
The customer at that point is going to be like, man, I should have taken it to their preferred shop. It doesn't matter.
They just want a solution.
What type of a hack job I'm going to get.
Yeah.
At least I'm going to get my car back. Because when you run on a rental and that becomes a problem for you, it doesn't matter whose fault it is.
Yeah, because I mean, right now, in today's economy, there's a lot of people, I would say maybe 50% or more, that it's hard to have like another $30 to $50 a day that you're paying on a rental after it's not covered, right? That's a lot of money for a lot of people.
It's a lot.
And so you got to be mindful of those types of things. But you'll win your battle. I appreciate you sharing your stories on the different businesses. But I really hope you did you join the NHCA?
No, I'm looking to join.
Okay, well, it's free.
Yeah, totally.
Remember, nhca.pro, you can join. But definitely love to have you around. We have our next event on the 13th of November at ProSource. We had talked about maybe you guys being the drink sponsors and all that stuff. But there's going to be, it'll be a good place because there's a lot of people that have fleets there as well. But
I love that. But even just being an educational standpoint for people, right? Like, a lot of people don't know what their options are even for a fleet or even a wrap. Like, some guy goes, man, I don't wrap my fleet because it's so expensive. It's like $5,000 per truck. I go, well, you have different options. Right. There's different levels for them to understand that they can represent themselves. Like, if you're at a job site, most people don't have the freedom to put their banner on the wall, but your trucks can speak for you. Correct. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to spend an abundance of money. So I would love to be a part of that, to not only educate, but be a support system for all these guys. Yeah. And that's where I feel like I bring my value, because you can take your car to any body shop. Sure. But again, it does come down to relationships. If all service is equal, relationships are important, and educating people is important on that stuff. So absolutely, we'll talk offline about that. But no, I appreciate you spending some time today. Thanks for having me. Great. Absolutely. Guys, I know you got a lot out of this conversation. If you listened all the way, please share the full episode out. But if you see some clips out, there's going to be a bunch of different clips. Share it out. Let's, get Oscar more out there even than he is. He's actually very popular. I know a lot of mutual friends, apparently. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. You're the man. Awesome, I really appreciate you having me, dude.